Good evening, everyone. Again, we are back to the Spirit's book. We are on question 267 of the chapter The Spirit World. And we are studying choice of trials. We discussed last week along with our last question was a long explanation by Kardec on our choices, on the awareness, on the willingness, on the when we are choosing our next incarnation. So we are going to continue, and we can address some of the aspects we addressed last week also. Okay, so Philip, you do the honors.
Certainly. Question 267. Can a spirit make its choice while in the physical state? Its desire may have a certain amount of influence, depending on its intention, but it often views things very differently when it returns to the spiritual life. It is only as a spirit that it chooses. However, some decisions may be made during the material life because a spirit, even while incarnated, has occasional moments in which it is independent of the matter that it inhabits. Subsection A. Are there many cases where people desire greatness and wealth on earth, but not as an atonement or a trial? Absolutely. In such cases, it is their material instinct that desires to enjoy material greatness. The spirit could only want it to understand its fluctuations.
Okay, first let me correct a little bit this item A because it was not well translated. The correct translation is the spirit would also, meaning in the spiritual world, could only want it to understand its vicissitudes, not fluctuations. Okay, so what they mean here is when we want to come to an incarnate, our material instinct can desire to enjoy the physical advantages, wealth, and power. But when we are in the spirit world, in the eternal spirit, would want these opportunities just to understand the challenges and to be able to overcome the challenges. Okay, so the question from Kardec to the spirits is if a spirit can make a choice while incarnated, while in the physical world. And in a sense, we are making choices with our daily lives, with our options on how to live our lives. We are making choices about our future incarnations. It may not be conscious choices, maybe unconscious, but we are, because everything that we do today in this life will have consequences that will reflect on our future incarnations. But in the sense of consciously choosing our next incarnation, it can happen during our dreams when we detach from the physical body, as they say here, the occasional moments which is independent from the matter. That means in dreams. But besides that, our physical body most likely prevents us from being able to make these choices, to focus on these choices, because we are distracted with the necessities and needs of the physical life and with our worries about the physical life. Understanding our condition as eternal spirits, of course, will make us reflect and think on our future incarnations, but making choices, it's unlikely. Again, nothing is impossible, but it's unlikely. And I spoke a little bit about A also. So I think that's it. Any comments, questions here? Okay, let's go, Philip.
268. Until a spirit has reached the state of perfect purity, must it constantly undergo trials? Yes, but not as you understand it. By trials, you only mean material misfortunes. When a spirit has reached a certain degree of purification, it has no more hardships of that kind to undergo, although it is not perfect yet. Nevertheless, it must perform certain duties to continue to improve. There is nothing painful in these duties, for example, the duty of helping others improve themselves.
So when we talk about the evolution, our evolution as eternal spirits, we know that there are two sides: the moral evolution and the intellectual evolution. The more evolved we are, the less we will have to face consequences of mistakes from the past. Because as we evolve and we start correcting those mistakes, overcoming the challenges imposed by our mistakes, our atonements, the less we have to face them. But that doesn't mean that we reached perfection. We still need to evolve morally and intellectually. So trials are challenges that are placed in front of us to help us grow, to help us evolve, both morally and intellectually. Atonements are consequences of our past previous actions that will cause the consequence on our eternal journey. So we see that as in the books of André Luiz, the work that he does with the mentors, the visits, the assistance of helping others, you can call these challenges, trials, you can call this, but they are all learning and they are not painful. They are opportunities to grow. When you talk about incarnations, here on earth, a more evolved spirit will still have the physical body with all its decaying consequences and diseases that will happen in the physical body. But if you no longer have atonements, the physical body will play a smaller part in the struggles of the physical life. So as we evolve, we are less and less going to face evolution by pain, right? We know that we can evolve through love or through pain. At this stage of evolution that we still evolving through pain most of the cases because we don't know how to evolve through love. But the more we learn about how to evolve through love, meaning charity and helping others, the less we will have to face the pain of the trials and the pain of the expiations that we have to face. Okay? It's clear here? Yep. Okay. Next one.
269. Is it possible for a spirit to make a mistake with respect to the value of the trial it chooses? It may choose one that exceeds its strength, and in that case, it fails. Alternatively, it may choose one for which it will reap no profit at all. For instance, if it seeks to lead an idle and useless life. But in such cases, when it returns to the spiritual world, it realizes that it has gained nothing and asks to make up for lost time.
Okay, so let's go back to a basic concept that we discussed the last couple of weeks, right? A spirit will participate in the reincarnation plan if they are aware of reincarnation and if they are, they have condition, they evolved enough to be able to be part of it. So, that's what we are discussing here. In that sense, can a spirit ask for more than it can deal with? Always. We give the example always of college, right? You go to first year in college, you're going to talk to your counselor, and you want to do 10 subjects in the first semester, and then your counselor tells you, come on, you are going to struggle to do 4 or 5. Stay with what you can achieve. And then you insist, if no, I want to do 7, at least 7. And then the counselor will tell you, listen, if you insist, then go. And then what happens? We struggle and we end up abandoning a couple of them, or 2 or 3 of them in the middle, and not performing so well on the others. The same thing with the reincarnation. When we are there in the spiritual world, we look at the opportunities. As we become aware of the opportunities, we want to embrace the world. We want to face all the challenges so we can leave this incarnation and the next incarnation and go directly to a place way above Nosso Lar. And the spirits, our guardian angel or protecting spirits, they know that it's more than we can deal with. So we are going to come here, and then the struggles will happen in our life, and we are going to fail in many of the challenges. So that's the case if with the mistake of the trials. On the other hand, they talk about challenges that will reap no profit at all, that spirit may choose to lead an easy life, let's say. And it's a choice we make. We have our free will. Our spiritual benefactors may allow us as a learning experience to come to a life where we are not going to do much, because even not doing much, we will later realize that was a wasted opportunity, and we'll probably ask for a more challenging one. But again, this all applies to spirits that are participating in their reincarnation process, which are not all of them, and actually it's the minority, it's not the majority. The majority goes to the conveyor belt, which is the natural process of reincarnation, that are the personal missions, not the collective missions, that will come to deal with your past mistakes and with the challenges that will allow you to evolve, learn and evolve. And as I mentioned before, we end up going back to the spiritual world, achieving 40 to 70% of our objectives, the majority of us. Very few of us are what they call in Missionaries of the Light, the completers, that achieve 100% of what they are supposed to achieve in an incarnation. And again, should we make more of an effort? Yes, we should. Are we going to succeed? Maybe, maybe not. It's a personal journey, and each one has to make their own choices. But the importance of being able to be better today than I was yesterday is what is defined by Kardec as the true spiritist, is the one that is always making an effort to improve themselves compared to themselves, not to anyone else. Okay. Comments, questions? No? Okay. Everybody very quiet today. Let's go.
270. Comment first. I don't understand the answer. Why do some people have vocations and a spontaneous desire to follow one career over another? It seems to me that you could answer this question yourself. Is not that the existence of such vocations a consequence of what we have told you concerning the choice of trials and the progress accomplished in a prior existence?
Yeah, I understand your doubts, Phillips. It's the question by Kardec is here: why people make choices on one way or another on what we are going to pursue. And actually, this is a question we discussed before, right? When you have when you have already an inclination for a certain area, and you bring that inclination with you, it's not blocked by your physical abilities, in your physical life, you are going to choose that career, right? If you are a musician and you have an ability to play instruments and you have a love for music, you are going to come here and probably will try to follow the career of a musician. You know, sometimes we have to choose paths that will allow us to evolve in areas that we are not very good yet. You know, let's say if you haven't developed yourself yet in the scientific area, you may come and be inclined to make a choice on scientific area because you want to learn and evolve more on that area. Again, we don't need to go through every area, every profession that exists. Of course, we can learn without having to be involved in everything, but we are going to have incarnations that we are more focused on scientific areas, on humanistic areas, on artistic areas, because we need to develop ourselves in all of those areas. And also the moral aspect plays a role there, right? How can you be of assistance to others? The more you are aware of the need to be of assistance to others, the more you are going to make choices related to your ability to help others. Elmo.
John, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the word that is misplaced. Is that generate confusion? Take the word that out and you read, it's not the existence of such vocations a consequence of what we have told you concerning the choices of trials and the progress accomplished in a prior existence?
Okay, if you do that, the sentence probably say it is not the existence of such a vocations a consequence of what we have told you concerning the choice of trials and the progress accomplished in a prior existence. I think either way, more words need to be changed so that you make a positive statement.
Okay, yeah, I didn't check this one in Portuguese or in French. Right. Let me see if I could take a look quickly here in Portuguese to see if there is much what they say here.
So obviously what the Spirit is telling us here is that, well, we had discussed, I'm trying to translate, we have discussed that already. Of course, that what we are facing today, what we are facing today is choices that you made in the spiritual world when you're able to make the choices in association with the progress that you have done in previous reincarnations.
Yeah, it's just the wording that's not correct.
Which one is it? Which one it is?
270. If you read in Portuguese, it's not much different. I will try to, what it says in Portuguese, isn't this the consequence of everything that we just spoke about, the choices of trials and the progress achieved in a previous existence?
That's much better.
That's better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the more or less the translation. Yeah, I didn't. I'll mark that for future translations, Philip. Thank you.
Wow, it's much, the way you translated that is far more clearer. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now it makes sense?
Now it makes sense, yes.
Okay. All right.
271?
Yep.
An errant spirit studies the various conditions of a physical life that will lead it to progress. However, how can it think that it will make progress by being born, for example, among cannibals? Those who are born among cannibals are not advanced spirits. They are spirits who are still at the cannibal level, or possibly even lower. we know that cannibals are not at the bottom of the scale, and that there are worlds in which degrees of cruelty are found that have no equivalent on earth. The spirits of those worlds are, therefore, lower than the lowest of our world, and being a savage is a step up from them.
I like that.
It would be the same situation if our cannibals had to carry out some profession obliging them to shed blood in a civilized community. If they have no higher goal, it is because their moral inferiority does not allow them to grasp any higher degree of progress. A spirit can only advance gradually. It cannot clear the distance that separates barbarism from civilization in a single bound. Because of this inability, we see one of the reasons why reincarnation is necessary. Reincarnation is a product of God's justice, because otherwise, what would become of the millions of human beings who die every day in the lowest depths of squalor if they had no means of arriving at higher states? Why would God deny them the favors granted to other human beings?
Okay, so let's try to make sense of what is written here. So on our evolutionary path, we go from primitive spirits to more evolved spirits. Here on Earth, we can talk about cavemen and the primitive spirits incarnated, and then as we evolve, we progress, right? So what remembering the sorry, lost my train of thought here. Let me go back. So yes, remembering that this was written in the middle of the 19th century. So today there is still cannibalism in some tribes, yes, but at that time it was even more common, right? So the Europeans will hear about it in shock of this primitive civilizations. So the question is probably related: how can someone be born amongst primitive spirits? How can you progress? And the answer from the spirits is that those that are born amongst primitive spirits are primitive spirits, right? Unless they are there on a mission to help them progress, which are going to talk a little bit later. You are born around the same vibrational level of progress that you have in worlds that you find your level of evolution adequate to. So Kardec here talks a little bit, goes even further. Sometimes the opportunity to be born amongst cannibals from primitive spirits from more inferior worlds, it's an opportunity to be born on a more civilized place, in a sense, for them, because we tend to look at our surroundings and we have difficulty understanding the spirits that are born amongst more, less evolved spirits. But it's, the path of evolution has many options, many avenues. And maybe the path of evolution for these spirits, if they are incarnated amongst these cannibals, it will give them an opportunity to move forward a little bit. And if they are placed in a more civilized community, they will completely lose themselves, because they would have no condition of adapting themselves to a more organized society. So, it's the divisions that are natural on our evolutionary path, and we have on Earth spirits that have a certain degree of evolution from less evolved to more evolved. And they are born where they have the best possibility of progressing according to their level of evolution, unless they are born on a mission, and that's a different story. Okay, I hope it was clear. I don't know if you guys have any questions here. Elmo, I don't know if you want to add something here.
No, not really.
Yeah, we're trying to move away also from the word savage, because I know it's not a very well understood word here. It's used here in the sense of you know, of spirits that live in tribes. There are more primitive spirits that are incarnated on Earth. In French and Portuguese, it doesn't have the connotation that it has in English. That is a more of an offensive connotation. So, but it's to be understood as primitive spirits. Okay.
Johnny.
Yes, Luis.
By the way, guys, it was my fault that Johnny lost concentration. I was sending messages to him, so I'm sorry, Johnny. But anyway, regarding 271, although cannibals are extreme, I'm sure you have, what's the word in English? You have, you know, being interacted with spirits that have come back in incarnations in lower positions, in less cultured positions than before, as slaves, as manual laborers. So, and they can advance in those positions. So, I believe the path to progress is not limited to, it's not unidirectional, if I might say so. Obviously, cannibals are kind of extreme, but I am pretty sure spirits advance in reincarnations of very different sorts.
Maybe a spirit will incarnate in a cannibal tribe to start a farm.
Maybe, yes.
And raise some chickens.
Possible, yeah. If it's going to help them progress in a different path, you know. But that's what I mentioned as a mission, right? Because then if you are going to bring some knowledge and some advancement to them, you are incarnating there on a mission. And but of course, when you are incarnated amongst cannibals, you have to adapt to their. You may help them progress, but you have to adapt to their ways of living, right? Otherwise, you cannot live amongst them. And adapting to their way of living may entail some sacrifices on your personal choices. But again, this is all theory and suppositions here, right? But yeah, Luis, you're right. There are different, as I said, there are different paths to progress, and we don't really need to be always born in the most advanced places in the world to be able to progress and evolve. Sometimes, actually, a place that is in much more need of help and assistance may be our best way to progress.
272?
Yeah.
Can spirits be born among civilized people if they came from a world that is lower than Earth, or even if they were among the lowest members of the human race, such as cannibals? Yes. Such spirits sometimes come into your world by trying to reach a degree that is too far above them. However, they are out of place among you because they have instincts and habits that clash with yours. These beings introduce cruelty and barbarism into civilization. For them, returning among cannibals is not a step down, but only resuming their proper place, and they may even gain by doing so.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Exactly.
when we talk here about spirits that are brought to Earth, less evolved spirits, coming from a world that is lower than Earth, and have an opportunity to incarnate on Earth, first, they need to have the merit. Otherwise, they'll continue in their world. For us to move to a more evolved planet, we need to have the merit. But being more advanced in a primitive world means being less advanced in a world like Earth. So sometimes they will bring with them, they will have an opportunity to learn with different customs and different opportunities, but they may come bringing their instincts and habits from their primitive world and having difficulties to get rid of them. So they may introduce, as Kardec says here, cruelty and barbarism into civilization. But they are having the opportunity to learn and to evolve. Again, they are not going to be the leaders of anything, right? They are going to be in the lower scale of the inhabitants of the planet. But for them, it may be a step up. Imagine, let's say, any of us here leave Earth in this incarnation and have an opportunity to incarnate in a more evolved world, right? In our next incarnation. Well, we're still ourselves, right? We still have our imperfections. We are going to take our imperfections with us, and maybe surrounded by a more advanced world, we will be able to overcome some imperfections, hide others, but we may end up acting on some of our imperfections there. And we are going to be seen as the primitives of that more evolved planet. Of course, at our stage here, with a more positive view for those more evolved spirits that have a better understanding than we here on Earth that are still very selfish and very, imperfect. But it's the same thing, right? We're not going to leave Earth and be the leaders of anything in a more advanced world. We'll be on the end of the line of the spirits that are there, right? The rest of the rest. So, but it's an opportunity. So it's more or less the same thing they are talking here, the spirits and Kardec. They have this opportunity. If a spirit deserves to leave their primitive world and come to a more civilized world like Earth, they will bring with them their issues. So, but doesn't mean that it's not a good opportunity, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't be receiving them with all the assistance that we can provide. Luis.
Question. We have plenty of references of conveyor belt style reincarnation on Earth. We also have a number of references of interworld managed reincarnation, like Capella, like the ones on planetary transition from, I don't remember what world. Question is, do you know of any reference of interworld conveyor belt style reincarnation? Meaning, do spirits sort of reincarnate to other worlds without a managed thing, as far as you know, as far as you have read?
I don't remember reading anything, and as for me, makes sense that no, the conveyor belt has to be if you are reincarnating in the same place, because then it's automatic. If you're moving to a different world, it needs to involve something more. It needs to involve a more complex operation, even if it's a primitive spirit, because you are changing the perispirit, you are changing the all the physical aspects, right, that involve changing to a more evolved world or a different world. So again, I haven't read anything, but for me, just in terms of a reason, it has to be a more complex organization.
Or even a movement to a less evolved world, as we know is going to happen to Earth, has to be a managed thing, right?
Yes, I think so. But you know, I think it can be not on an individual level, but on a collective level. You know, you take a group of spirits and you work on all of them more or less together in terms of the same work is done for different spirits. For a group of, let's say the group of spirits that you're referring to that are taken from Earth and to a less evolved world because they are no longer able to stay here on Earth. The colonies that is mentioned in the book, transitory. No, the on the way of the world of regeneration, right? The latest one from Divaldo. Yeah. The colonies that are being taken to a less evolved world, I think they will work on the colony, on the whole colony itself. I think my guess is because the service of preparing them for a less evolved world is much more simpler than a complex work that entails to move to a more evolved planet. Again, my reading of this and understanding, and again, if Elmo has something different to say, or Luis, you think differently, please.
No, I have no references, but I think I imagine the any process leading to going to a different worlds would require some kind of planning and very well structured planning.
Yeah.
I have a serious problem with this answer. I understand the answer completely, but it's a personal problem, guess, because it goes against a few things that it's almost cruel to me, you know. When it says the spirit's trying to reach a degree that is too far above them, I read that they are doomed to fail. It's almost like they don't got a chance here. Okay. And then it seems to be more that it's like a reversed mission, that they're not really coming here to really learn anything or teach us anything. They come here to kind of test us, introduce cruelty and barbarism in civilization. It's almost that they are trying, testing the supposedly civilized ones, which again, to me, it goes against the basic fundamentals that I have, that every reincarnation is an opportunity of growth. And it seems to me that these spirits ain't got a chance. They are doomed to fail. Because they try to reach a degree that is too far above them. And on the same note, we know that progress, evolution does not accept leaps, jumps, steps. You have to go step by step.
I understand the answer as a step up. I know that what Kardec wrote here, and it's important to say that it doesn't come from the spirit; it comes from Kardec, right? These beings introduce cruelty and barbarism into civilization. But I understand that the concept that Kardec wants to bring here, that's an opportunity to grow, even if it's a challenging one, right? It's like when you go to an advanced class and you are not prepared. Are you going to not learn anything? Well, it depends on the type of class. Let's say you are on a course and you have some basics, and then you try a more advanced class, which is you don't have the basics to cover the class. But you're going to learn something if you make an effort. Even if you are not going to learn most of it, you're going to learn something. So I can see this as something like that, okay? Okay, anyone else? Okay, last one here.
273. Can a civilized person reincarnate as a form of atonement as a savage? Yes, but that would depend on the kind of atonement that is due. Slave owners who have been cruel to their slaves might in turn become slaves and suffer the torment they once inflicted on others. People who held positions of authority at one time may in a new life be forced to obey those who formerly were their subordinates. Such an existence may be inflicted on them as an atonement if they had abused their power. A good spirit may also choose an influential existence among the people of a lower race to hasten their advancement. In that case, such a reincarnation is a mission.
Okay, so here, first, we're talking in the middle of the 19th century. Remember, the differences of classes were very strong, and the chances of moving from one class to another were much smaller than they are today in the majority of the world. Okay, so and I think questions like that is why reincarnation was not brought as one of the main concepts of spiritualism into the U.S. because slave owners here would never accept the notion that they may come in a new incarnation as a slave. But again, when we think about reason, right, cause and consequence, if we abuse our power, we are going to have to face the consequences. So when we talk here about people that have positions of authority and abuse that position, they may be forced to, as a consequence, to incarnate where they will be subordinates without a chance of having any position of authority. You see sometimes people that work very hard and are never recognized despite their efforts. Maybe again, I'm not saying every time, and that's very important. Maybe it's because if they have a position of authority, they are going to fall to old habits and abuse the power again. So it is to their best interest not to have any position of power. So we may come to a new incarnation in positions very inferior to ones that we had before for different reasons, as a mission or as an atonement, as a mission, like the Spirit says here. Depends, each case is a case. And we have to remember that no group of people is left alone without a spirit incarnated amongst them that is a little more evolved than them to help them move forward. So you won't have any group of spirits anywhere that won't have someone that is a little more wiser than those around them. And you see this, amongst, let's say, the African tribes, the Native Americans, the natives in Brazil. They all have the leaders that have a little bit more of knowledge and more of understanding of their environment, of how to treat them, how to help them move forward. These are spirits that are more evolved, but that sometimes choose to stay amongst those that are dear to them to help them move forward. The same way that the famous Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, one of the forerunners of Spiritism in Brazil, decided to stay and continue helping spiritists instead of moving to a more evolved planet. That when he had the chance, decided to stay here because he wanted to continue helping us. So we can have both types of reincarnations in these less advanced situations. Okay. Any final questions on this item here? Okay, now that we just went over Halloween, we have a relationships beyond the grave. A very Halloweenish title.
I like
274. Do the different degrees of spirits establish a hierarchy? Do subservience and authority exist among spirits? Absolutely. The authority of spirits over one another, according to their relative superiority, is great and morally overpowering over lower spirits. Can lower spirits reject the authority of their superiors? As I said, it is irresistible.
Okay, so when Kardec asked this question to the spirits, this is almost 100 years before Nosso Lar, right? When we read Nosso Lar and we learn about how a spiritual colony works with all the hierarchy that exists there, with the governor, with the ministers, and with everything. Again, not all colonies are like Nosso Lar, but all colonies have a hierarchy, have spirits that are in charge. And all spiritual colonies will have these organized spiritual colonies, will have these more evolved spirits morally and intellectually that take care of it. And again, the position of power there is entirely moral, allied with an intellectual evolution, of course, to be able to take care of a place like that. And the less evolved spirits cannot resist the moral power. It's overwhelming to them, and we see this in the books of André Luiz. This Sunday we go back to Liberation, right, when they are dealing with Gregorio there, the superior priest of the lower zones, and we'll, spoiler alert, by the end of the book we'll see how they convert Gregorio. You didn't expect anything different, right, by reading Liberation. And you see the moral power of someone that is very dear to him, that is going to rescue him. So when the spirits in the lower zones, the spirits impose their superiority, their authority with their more intellectual knowledge, but not with moral, through fear and through scaring the less evolved spirits. As you go to a colony like Nosso Lar and above, the moral quality of the spirits will define the hierarchy. Okay. Thanks, Philip.
275. Do the power and respect that an individual may have enjoyed on earth give that person superiority in the spirit world? No, because the humble are glorified and the great abased. Read the Psalms. How should we interpret glorified and abased? Are you not aware of the fact that spirits have different ranks according to their merit? Individuals who held the highest ranks on earth may find themselves in the lowest rank in the spiritual world, while their inferiors may be in the highest. Do you understand this? After all, Jesus once said, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted."
Read the next, please.
276. When individuals who have lived in prominent social positions on earth live in an inferior place in the spirit world, do they feel humiliated? Often very humiliated, especially if they were arrogant and jealous.
Okay, so where do we find ourselves when we are back in the spiritual world? We find ourselves where our moral elevation takes us, our vibrations takes us. We mentioned this many times. So if you are here in a position of power, abusing your power, and you have no moral elevation, you are going to find yourself in the spiritual world in difficult places. As they say here, as Jesus told us, right? For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, for the one who humbles himself will be exalted. This is not a phrase that Jesus said without any profound meaning. He has a profound meaning. If we are very proud of ourselves and we are very full of ourselves here, no matter what position we have, we are going to find ourselves in a very difficult situation when we are back in the spiritual world. If we are humble here, if we are simple, and we proceed with humility and acceptance, with resignation, we are going to find ourselves assisted by more evolved spirits, and we'll find ourselves in a more agreeable place for us in the spiritual world. Again, our place in the spiritual world is defined by our moral evolution, not by our intellectual evolution. So, yes.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that someone in a prominent social position is also capable of being humble.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We have to do that caveat, because sometimes we tend to believe there's people in the high positions, they're doomed to, no, but we have to make that, because there are people in the social position.
You think of let's go back in time so we don't talk about anyone present, but Abraham Lincoln, right? You can imagine that Abraham Lincoln will have found himself in a very high position in the spiritual world and he was in a prominent position here on earth, right?
Exactly, true, yeah.
So, if you think about like Gandhi, for instance, right? Gandhi ended up in the spiritual world amongst the more elevated spirits, and he had a very prominent position here on earth. So, it of course depends on how you act on your power, because we need these people to have power, because again, as we discussed before, many of us are followers. So we need good examples to be able to follow, to be able to serve as an example. And we need the Gandhis and the Mother Teresas and the Lincolns of the world to lead us to a better place, right? Because if you have only the negative leaders, it becomes a problem, because we end up having many of the divisions we're seeing nowadays in the world is because of negative leaders, right? That decide to lead by division instead of leading by unifying. And we're not going to go into names here, because that's not the place. But and every time you try to lead by divisions, you can imagine that the consequences for oneself back in the spiritual world are not going to be very pleasant.
Yeah.
Tony, I believe we not only leaders, but role models. We need role models.
Role models, yes. Very good. Yeah, good point. Role models, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I think the key here is the word exalt, which means to hold oneself at a very high regard. All the ones that are named over there, they had the position of power, but they did not exalt themselves. On the contrary, they were humbled.
Yeah. That's why the words of Jesus are so important. This phrase is a short phrase, but very, very important, very true, right?
Yeah,
explains our spiritual level.
To exalt oneself is not in relationship with financial prosperity is in relationship to it, or being the opposite of humbleness.
Yes. Okay, let's do the last one.
277. When soldiers encounter the general in the spiritual world after battle, do they still acknowledge him as their superior? Titles are meaningless. Intrinsic superiority is all that matters.
Again, that's in the long term, right? But let's say the soldier and the general are killed in the same battle, and they disoriented wake up in the spiritual world next to each other. The soldier will still look at the general as his superior, because of the understanding and the remembrance he has from his physical life. But as it becomes aware of the loss of the physical body, the return to the spiritual world, then titles are meaningless. The moral superiority is all that matters. So the soldier may be superior to the general in the end, but we have to take into account that at a certain point, it still may see the general as its superior because of lack of understanding of the reality of the spiritual world. Okay. Any comments here, questions? We're going to leave next question for next week, because that's an interesting subject. Spirits of different orders mingle, and we see a lot of examples on André Luiz books, and I think that it's worth leaving it for next week. Okay, Luis?
No, I was going to say something, but forget about it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So before we do our final prayer, just a reminder of what we have on this weekend. On Saturday, we have a lecture by our good friend Daniel Assisi from California. You saw him many times, and he's going to talk about when it's time to change, parable of the prodigal son. Like, he's a very good speaker, and I really like Daniel Assisi. I recommend, if you can, to watch this Saturday. Lusara will be introducing him.
It's from California.
Sorry?
No? He's from California.
Yeah, he lives in San Diego. Yeah, he lives in San Diego, California. Yes. He's been at SGNY already a couple of times. And this Sunday, it's the first Sunday of the month, so we are back to the book Liberation, and we are going to study chapter 6, right, Elmo?
Yeah, that's what it told me.
Yeah, let me just open here. Yes, Observations and New Discoveries, chapter 6.
Chapter 6?
Yes, they're still in the lower zones, and they're still learning preparing how to deal with Gregorio. I was talking to a friend that is reading all the André Luiz collection for the first time, and he's very new to Spiritism, and he's just reading Liberation, and he told me Liberation is my favorite book of the collection so far. Okay, good. I don't know if I have.
Most is the one that's mostly. I wonder if it's the one that's the most in demand on Solar,
Yes.
probably. Oh?
Yes. It's the most the bestseller of all Spiritist books in Brazil is not Solaris. Sold more than 10 million copies already in Brazil. It's more than the Spirits book. Yeah.
More than the Spirits book. Wow.
Yeah, in Brazil, more than Spirits book. Yes.
But I would say Liberation's not for everybody.
It's not.
It's
why?
difficult.
Why?
It's heavy.
It's heavy. It has passages that sort of terrorize you. I mean, remember 2-3 chapters ago? How was it?
Yeah, this is heavy anyway. All this is very heavy. I mean, this is not easy stuff.
There is not an easy path, right?
No, no.
Because
I don't know
his
why
essence-
why do we keep coming back?
Some reason, right, Paco?
Atonement.
Okay. All right, Carol, can you do our final prayer, please?
Sure. Thank you, John and Elmo and Luis and everyone. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful this evening to be together for our study of the Spirit's Book, Chapter 6. We have learned that everything we do will be an influence on our future. And of course, we know that there is cause and consequences. So we can evolve through love, or we can also evolve through pain. The choice is ours. We are grateful that we are together this evening to share these studies, that we can become more enlightened and have a better perspective on the spiritual world as well as the physical world and incarnation. We are grateful to the spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the helpers, the healers, the directors, and the teachers for guiding us, being with us, inspiring us to continue to grow, to grow in wisdom, to grow in strength, in courage, and vibration. We are grateful for what we have received this evening, and may we share with others through our discernment that which is applicable. May we continue during the week with our prayers, with our studies and mindfulness, doing better and better each day. Each day is a step forward. We are moving forward to the higher goal of becoming a perfected spirit. May we humbly ask now for safety and protection as we go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We are never alone. We are always guided as we ask and do our part. We ask to be of greater service, to be more connected to our community, and to hopefully spread Spiritism as we can throughout not only this country, but throughout the world. We ask for the love, light, and peace of Christ to be with us now as we go forward. And as we close this portion of the meeting, may we be safe and may we be protected as we do return to our family, friends, and loved ones. Go forth now. As a reminder, go forth as beacons of light and gratitude. So